my god, hold on, there we go, wrong one. Hello, everybody. Hello, JD. Hello, Red Hood. Welcome in, welcome in. How y'all doing today? So, you know what, let me turn that back on. Let's have some low vibes while we listen to some spooks. Let me know if that sounds a good background sound enough. Thank you. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have a mic anymore. And I was like, I need to find something new. I'm doing okay, Redhead. It's been a rough week, but I'm in a good space right now. Aw, JD, I'm sorry you had a bad brain day, but I'm assuming that means it's getting better. Also, I wanted to ask, I messed with some new mic settings. Do I sound better or worse than I normally do? I'm glad you're doing better, sweetie. Okay. I can do that. It's all up to y'all. But yeah, I realized that I did not get to do some creepypasta readings during October, and I was like, you know what? Doesn't matter. Spooky month may be over, but I can still do whatever the fuck I want. So that's what we're doing today. I added some more suppression and changed some noise gate stuff, but I don't know if I still sound the same. I mean, that's okay. Yes, mother does what she wants, and I always will. Oh yeah. Is the background sound too high, too low? Can you hear me okay? Hello, Anutaku. Yes, we are doing very clean. Cool. How are you doing? Yeah, we're gonna do some creepypastas today. It's gonna be great. Red, every time I see that frickin' emote, I have to do it. No background noise? Okay. No background noise? Alright. But you can hear the background music though, right? That's the important part. I do. And I found myself even like randomly at work or just when I'm sitting at my computer, I'll just find myself slowly doing this. And then I'll notice and be like, God damn it, why? It drives me nuts. Hello, Zero. Hello, Kitty. Yes, one of all of our favorite games, indeed. Ooh, having dinner at work. That is both a sad and good thing. What you getting? Hello, Din. How are you doing, hun? We gonna do some reading today. You're gonna hear me choke over my own voice a few times, but we in the mood. As of now, we have 5 on the list to do today. We'll add more on if anybody has any they want to share, want me to read. Any percent reading stream. As of right now, we have Eyeless Jack, Squidward Suicide, Sonic.exe was requested, the Russian Sleep Experiment, and the story of her holding an orange. Those are the 5 we've got right now. Hello, Twin. How you doing? Mexifrible? Yo, that sounds really good right now, to be honest. But then again, I'm also a little baby bitch when it comes to spicy, so it'd be kind of weird. Yes, the story of her and her fucking oranges. What? Oh, but yeah. Creepypasta's cooking evil. Creepypasta. Hell yeah. And you know what? Oh, let me get adjusted in this here chair. Do you like my new chair? It makes me happy. It's nice and comfy. I can stretch in it. And I have all the room. I could share it with someone if I really wanted to, but I think for right now I'm nice and comfy here. Okay. Yes, I love it a lot. I love it a lot. I normally don't grab new things, and I was like, you know what? I saw it and I had to have it. I feel very fancy. And it had a matching desk like this, so I was like, yo, it must be mine. It must be mine. All right. Stretch out. Oh. Pray my voice doesn't kill me today. Pray it listens to me. All right, here. I'll ask this question. Which one should I start with? Do we want Jack, Squidward, Sonic, the Oranges, or the Russian Sleep Experiment? Which one should I read first? Because I've only read 3 of them. I might have read the orange one before, but I've only know that I've read 3 of them in my own mind. Red, yes, please go get some food. Oh, homework's the worst. Hopefully it's not too bad for you. Russian Sleep Experiment is good? Okay. Oh, are you saying those are the weak ones on Otaku? You're saying Squidward, Sonic are the weak ones? Damn, okay. Let's see, then... we'll do, if you think Russian Sleep Experiment is better than the other 2, I know, you really shots fired. I think what we'll do then is we'll do Squidward, then we'll do Russian Sleep Experiment. Because you know, if there's such a big difference, clearly we need to see it. Hello, wifey! How are you doing, darling? Our fancy new goddamn affiliate. Congratulations! Excitement. I am so happy for you. All the love. So excited for you, honey. So excited. Hello, King. Welcome in. We're here to relax and get a little spooky. We're also talking about apparently how Squidward's Shribershide is the weak one, as opposed to the Russian Sleep Experiment, which is strong, which apparently is very strong. Let's go, girl. And off work? Hell yeah. All good things. Hello, Gabe. Welcome in with the screamer. Welcome in. You don't fuck with the Russian Sleep Experiment? Oh, thank you for posture check and hydration. An egg? Well, you know what? If you wanna send that one to me in Discord, I'll give it a quick look if we run out of time. If we run out of the ones I have so far, because I know some of these are shorter than the others. Some of these are pretty long. It is what it is. Thank you. And you guys too. If you have any that you would want me to read, please go ahead, send me on Twitter, Discord if I'm friends with you there. But feel free to send them to me. We'll take a look at them. And if we have time, we'll do it. If not, I'll hold on to them for the next time we do this, because I feel like this might be a thing. I might try to do this at least once a month, because your girl loves spook. Hello, Astrid. Oh, Gabe, thank you. Oh, it's a short one? Okay. So, alright. Thank you. Hello, Misa. Hello. Thank you. I added some new things. Added some new stuff. I don't really do just chatting screens just chatting that very often. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it, you know? Alright. oh, some of them have, oh, that's cool. Some of them have actual estimated reading times, which is nice. Alright. We will start. We will start with Squidward, shall we? Alright. Everybody get comfy. Get comfy. Turn off your lights. Mine are off. Nobody can see anything. And I might not sleep tonight. Don't know. Can't say. But we'll find out. Alright. I just want to start off by saying if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't. But it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the season. But the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the Series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Hello, Blaze. Thank you for the lurk. Me and the two other interns were in the editing room, along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received the copy, what was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty, and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that this isn't final yet, animators often put up a mock title card, sort of an inside joke for us, with phony, oftentimes lewd titles, such as How Sex Doesn't Work, instead of A Rockabye Evolve, when SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title card, Squidward's Suicide, we didn't think of it more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as is normal. The story begins with Squidward practicing his clarinet. Hitting a few sour notes like normal, we hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down, as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced up with the animation, so yes, this isn't common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There is a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that's common in the show, but you could very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in center frame, and he too is booing, very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing, though. What is odd is everyone has hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed. Clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view out of his porthole window is of the night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is at this point there is no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, even though their status showed them working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking. in this silence for about 30 seconds, and then he started to sob softly. He put his hands over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute more, all the while a sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists in on itself. For a split second, then back to normal it goes. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is that this sound, and Squidward's sobbing, sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes the sound was coming through from the other side. As good as the sound as the studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce sound of that type of quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very, very, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it down. We watched the show twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I've had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen, as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. Everything was mangled and bloodied. Woof! He was laying on some pavement that was probably a road. The most upsetting part was that there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence, no tags, no markers, and the angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem the photographer was the person responsible for the person's death. We were of course mortified, but pressed on, hoping it was just a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than before, and half body in frame. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face, coming directly out of his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper-realistic style, looking as if you touched it, you would get blood on your fingers. The wind sounded now as if it were the gale blowing through the forest. There was even sounds of snapping branches. The laughing, a deep baritone, lasting at longer and longer intervals, coming more frequently. After about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back, we all were, but he knew he had no choice. This time, this was a photo of another person. They were laying down on their stomach in a pool of blood. Again, the body was on a street, and the photographer's shadow was visible, very similar in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomit, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. About 5 seconds after the second photo played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound, like it was when the scene started. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were now done in hyper-realism like the others were in the beginning of the episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot, pulsating. He just stared at the screen, as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing, this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud, and most fear-inducing of all, as the sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, and so did the deep-voiced laughing. And this time, the still photo lasted for about 5 frames. The animator was able to stop it on the 4th and backed up. This time, it was a photo of a man, and the scene was a little bit different. He was actively being assaulted. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different. But we couldn't tell how it was. He went on to the next, same thing. He went back to the first and played them quicker, and I lost it. I hurled on the floor, the animating and sound editors were gasping at the screen. The 5 frames were not as if they were 5 different photos. They were played out as if they were frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the person's eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of a person beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had to call on the creator to see this. Mr. Hillingbird arrived within about 15 minutes. He was just confused as to why he was called down there, so the editor just continued the episode. Once the few frames were shown, all screaming, all sound again stopped. Squidward was just staring at the viewer, full frame of the face, for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out, and the deep voice said, "Do it." And we see in Squidward's hands, again guys, this is Squidward suicide, so if this is not something you want to listen to, I'm gonna finish this. Please close out for this minute. Okay? Alright. He immediately puts the gun to his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatter the wall behind him, in his bed, and he flies back with the force. The last 5 seconds of this episode show his body on the bed. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hillingbird is obviously angry at this. He demands to know what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it's just a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety in my mind and caused me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think of was that the file was edited by someone in the chain from the drawing studio to here. The CTO was called in to analyze what happened. The analysis of the file did show it was edited over by new material, however the timestamp of it was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing it. All the equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware as well as glitches, as if the timestamp may have glitched and showed the wrong time, but everything checked out fine. We don't know what happened, and to this day, nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No one was identified, and no clues were gathered from the data involved, nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but now I know that I have some evidence that this is true. I can't prove anything about it beyond what I've seen, but now I think twice about things. I would lose my shit if that happened to me. Like, I would fucking lose my shit. I'm sorry. I would just be sitting, I definitely, I don't know if I would leave the room or if I would just, I feel like I would be more, I'd want to know what was going on. Like, I would have been the first one to call the police. Because, look, even if it's something else, like, I'm sorry, this is not something I would want to see. And yes, I did pull out. It was much more graphic, but I did not want to put that quite fully out. It was not. It was more graphic than I remembered. So, but yeah, no, I would have lost my shit. Because there's one thing to see it on TV, there's one thing to watch horror movies, but if you're at work looking at some kids' television and you could clearly tell that something's wrong there, someone tried to put something in there, no. That's the minute it's over. No. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you. Alright. And according to Onutaku, this one's the weakest one. This is the weakest one next to Sonic.exe, which we will get to in a moment. Well, in a few moments. I've recognized. I wonder. The blood null, yeah. Sanic. We will get to Sanic after we're gonna do the Russian sleep experiment next. As Din, Ari, and a few other people expressed interest in that one first. This one is a little bit longer. It says it'll take me about 12 minutes to read. The first one was only about 7, but we'll see where we go. And I do see that Onutaka did send me that next one, so we... An egg! An egg! I just love the name of that. An egg! Okay. Ugh. Quick stretch, everybody. Remind your body that you're real. You're here. You are a person. Oh. Doggy. Okay. Taking a drink, and let us start with the Russian sleep experiment. All right. Aw, Misa. Okay. All right. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experiment gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so that the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they only had microphones and a 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized window into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on, but no bedding, running water and toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 of them for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised, falsely, that they would be freed if they submitted to the test, and they did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects, in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber repeatedly, yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it. Or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it impossible that no sound could be coming from the 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives, as they were afraid they were either dead or vegetables. They announced, We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom. To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice. We no longer want to be freed. Debate broke out from the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed with the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphone began to eject. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any of them were in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from dead test subjects' thighs and chests shoved in the drain of the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate in the floor. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects had been removed, while the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been removed, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All blood vessels and organs remained intact, just as if they had been taken out and laid on the floor, fanning out the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tract of all 4 could be seen working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had eaten off over the course of a few days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber and alternately begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on, lest they fall asleep. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by one having his... I'm sorry, this isn't funny, but reading it is fucking hilarious. I'm sorry. Another was gravely injured by one having his testicles ripped off and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives if you count ones that committed suicide after the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. One heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out to the point where there was more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach and just repeating the word more, over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begging for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 were taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative that they had given him to prepare him for surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under. He managed to tear most of his way through a 4-inch thick leather strap on one wrist, even though the weight of a 200-pound soldier was holding that wrist as well. It only took a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under, and the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his blood had tripled the normal amount of oxygen. His muscles were still attached to his skeleton, were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in a struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force of his own muscles, the force his own muscles had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first in the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed, he was unable to beg or object to surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested, reluctantly, they try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should be medically impossible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisted the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. Yo, that's creepy. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of a drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The 2 other test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well. Although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation, the surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subject could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared the system in a normally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given. I must remain awake. All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced, and they were placed back into the chamber awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors for having failed the stated goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, a former KGB agent, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but they were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling the moment it was let slip they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at that point, all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all his might. First left, then right, and left again for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired for EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brainwaves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he was repeatedly suffering from brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on the paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of a deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flatline as the one who had just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named three immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to the bed, as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you, he screamed at the man strapped to the table. What are you? He demanded. I must know. The subject smiled. Have you forgotten so easily? The subject asked. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment, deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread. The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out. So nearly free. And that is the Russian sleep experiment. Hello, Sugar, and thank you so much. Thank you for the sub. Hello, welcome in. Yes, we are in Creepypasta Town, USA, international, whichever you might like. But yeah, we vibing. We're here for some spooks. Here for some spookiness. We had already read Squidward Suicide, and we just finished this one here. Yes, it is a good one. It is a good one. I'm sure all of you who have seen this one before have seen the picture that normally goes along with it. Which is so funny because it is creepy. It's a creepy picture. You know what? Give me a second. I will let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Wait, they made a movie for the Russian sleeping... What? What? I need to see this movie. I need to see this movie, and I need to see it now. Oh, well, Zero, if you've already seen it, why would I pull it up? So what I think is really funny about that picture is that it's literally, it's just a Halloween, like a Halloween decoration that I think you get from, like, Home Depot or something. I don't know. They've all seen it, Zero. They've all seen it. Hello, Lumi. How are you doing? Yes, we're all dorks here. We're all dorks here. Oh, Super Saiyan Son Goku. Oh my god. But yeah, that it makes me laugh every time they're like, oh man, this is what they look like. Oh man, and like, no, bud, it's just a freaking thing that you can go buy for $69.99. I don't know. It's on Prime? Okay, well, I am definitely gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna look at that, because that makes me laugh. That makes me laugh. So I love bad horror movies that are, especially ones that take themselves too seriously. Yeah, you can send them to me if we. I've got 3 more right now. We'll do your 4th one after Egg, but yeah, I think we definitely have time. Like, what was it? It was like, it was a Hangman one. Oh god, I have to look it up again. But it's hold on. It was called. I don't remember the challenge they had. It was the Charlie challenge. And it was from a movie. What movie was it? Movie. I'm trying to... The gallows! There you go. The gallows. Like, that took itself way too seriously. It took itself way too seriously. And then, of course, you have wonderful, wonderful movies that know exactly what they're doing with themselves. You know, like zombie strippers. That, I was not prepared for that movie. I should have been, but I was not prepared for it. Oh, okay. So I pulled up Sonic.exe. I thought about doing Bend Round, but that one is so long. It's so long. I don't know if I'd be able to get through it in one stream long. Actually, that's a lie. I'd probably make it through one stream, but... it is what it is. It's time for Sonic. It's time for Sonic. Alright. The story! Okay. Everybody crack your back real quick. Oh, stretch. Remind yourself that you are a meat sack. Oh! Because I know some people here aren't necessarily human, so we won't always say that. Meat popsicle, meat bag, you know, whatever it is. You are made of some yes, at a moderate pace. You know what? As long as we don't get Sonichu up in here, I'm okay. I'm okay. All right, here we go. Sonic.exe. Whew. I'm a total Sonic the Hedgehog fan, much like everyone else. I like the newer games, but I don't mind playing the classics. I don't think I've ever played glitchy or hack games before, though I don't think I want to play any after the experience that I had. It started on a nice summer afternoon. I was playing Sonic Unleashed. I liked how you got to explore the towns in it. Until I noticed, out of my peripheral vision, that the mailman had arrived and put something in my mailbox as usual, and then left. I paused my game to see what I got in the mail. The only thing inside the mailbox was a CD case for computers and a note. I took it inside. Yo, that was not a mailman. They're not allowed to do that. Someone killed your mailman, dude. 'Cause that ain't him. I looked at the note first and realized that it was from my dear friend Kyle. Let's just call him that. Whom I hadn't heard from in 2 weeks. I know that because I recognized his handwriting, although what was weird is how it looked. It looked badly written and scratchy and somewhat difficult to read, as if Kyle was having a hard time writing it down and did it in a hurry. This is what he wrote. Tom, I can't take it anymore. I had to get rid of this thing somehow before it was too late, and I was hoping you'd do it for me. I can't do it. He's after me, and if you don't destroy the CD, he'll come after you too. He's too fast for me. Please, Tom, destroy this godforsaken disc before he comes after you too. It's too late for me. Destroy the disc, and you'll destroy him. But do it quick, otherwise he'll catch you. Don't even play the game. It's what he wants. Just destroy it. Please. Kyle. Well, that was certainly weird. Even though Kyle is my best friend, and I haven't seen him in 2 weeks, I didn't do what he asked me. I didn't think that a simple gaming disc could do anything bad to him. After all, it's just a game, right? Oof, boy, was I wrong about that. Anyway, I looked at the disc, and it looked like some ordinary computer CD-ROM. Except that it had a black marker on it written Sonic.exe. And it was much unlike Kyle's handwriting, meaning he must have gotten it from someone else, like a pawn shop or eBay. When I saw Sonic on the writing on the CD, I was actually excited and wanted to play it, since I'm a big Sonic fan. Yes, JD, a simple gaming disc. Y'all remember those, right? Shit. I went up to my room and turned on my computer and put the disc in and installed the game. When the title screen popped up, I noticed that it was the first Sonic game. I was like, awesome! Because, like I said earlier, I like the classics. The first thing I noticed, but was out of place, was when I pressed start, there was a split second when I saw the title image turn into something much different. Something that I now consider horrifying, before cutting to black. I remember what the image looked like in that split second before the game cut to black. The sky had darkened, the title emblem was rusted and ruined. The Sega 1991 was now Sega 666, and the water had turned red, like blood, except it looked hyper-realistic. But the freakiest thing, that was what in the split-second frame, was Sonic. Its eyes were pitch black and bleeding with two glowing red dots staring right at me, and his smile had stretched wider up to the edge of his face. I was rather disturbed about that image when I saw it, though I figured that it was just a glitch and forgot about it. After it cut to black, it stayed like that for about 10 seconds or so, and then another weird thing happened. The save file select from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 popped up, and I was like, what the fuck? What is this doing in the first Sonic game? Anyway, then I noticed something else off. The background was dark cloudy sky of the bad Stardust Speedway level from Sonic CD, and there were only 3 save files. The music That Creepy Caverns of Winter music from Earthbound, only it was extended and seemed to have been in reverse. And the image for the save file, where you see a preview of the level, just read static for all 3 files. What freaked me out more was that the character select, it only showed Tails, Knuckles, and to my surprise, Dr. Robotnik. Now I was sure that something was up. I mean, how can you play as Robotnik in a classic Sonic game, for crying out loud? That's when I realized that this wasn't a glitchy game, it was a hacked game. Yeah, it definitely looked hacked. It was really creepy, but as a smart gamer, I wasn't scared. At least I tried not to be. I told myself that it was just a hack game and there was nothing wrong with that. Anyways, shaking off that creeped out feeling, I picked File 1 and chose Tails. Then I got started. The game froze for about 5 seconds, and then I heard a creepy pixelated laugh that sounded an awful lot like that. Yeah, I can read. Apparently not. I heard a creepy pixelated laugh that sounded an awful lot like that Kefka guy from Final Fantasy, before cutting to black. The screen stayed black for about 10 seconds or more. Then it showed the typical level title thing, except the simplistic shapes were all different shades of red, and the text only showed Hill, Act 1. The screen faded in and the level title vanished, revealing Tails in the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. The music was different though. It sounded like a peaceful melody in reverse. Anyway, I started playing and had Tails start running like you would in any other classic Sonic game. What was odd is that Tails was running along the level, there was nothing but flat ground and a few trees for 5 minutes. That was when the peaceful music started going lower into deep tones that sounded very, very weird. I suddenly saw something and I stopped to see what it was. It was one of the small animals lying dead in the ground bleeding. That was when the music started to slow down. Tails had a shocked and saddened look on his face that I'd never seen him have before. So I had him move along and he kept that worried look on his face. As he kept moving, I saw more and more dead animals as Tails moved past them, looking more and more worried. As the music lowers and he moves past more dead animals. I was shocked to see how they all died. They looked like someone killed them in rather gruesome ways. Some were hanged, some were destroyed. I felt sick to my stomach when I saw this massacre, and apparently so did Tails. After a few more seconds, there were no more animals and the music seemed to have stopped. I still kept Tails to continue. After a minute passed, the music stopped. Tails was running up a hill, and then he stopped. It wasn't until I saw why. Sonic was there on the other side of the screen, with his back against the wall. His back against the wall? Who wrote this? His back against Tails with his eyes closed. Tails looked happy to see Sonic, but then his smile faltered, obviously noticing that Sonic wasn't responding to him, if not acting as if he was totally oblivious of Tails' presence. Tails walked slowly towards Sonic, and I noticed that I wasn't even moving my keyboard to make him move. So this had to be a cutscene. Suddenly, I began to have a growing feeling of dread as Tails walked closer to Sonic to get his attention. I felt that Tails was in danger, and then something bad was going to happen. I heard faint static growing louder as Tails was but inches away from Sonic, and stopped and stuck his hand out to touch him. That foreboding feeling in my gut was growing stronger, and I felt the urge to tell Tails to get away from Sonic as the static grew louder. Suddenly, in a split second, I saw Sonic's eyes open, and they were black with those red glowing dots, just like the title image, though there wasn't a smile. When that happened, the screen turned black and the static sound was off. It stayed black for about 7 seconds, then white text appeared forming a message, saying, "Hello, do you want to play with me?" At this point, I was creeped out. I didn't want to continue the game, but my curiosity got the better of me when I was taken to a different level with the level title now saying, "Hide and Seek." This time, I was in on the Angel Island level from Sonic 3, and it looked like everything was on fire. Tails looked as though he was scared out of his wits this time. He actually looked at me and made frantic gestures to me as if he wanted to get out of the area he was in as fast as possible. I was starting to get freaked out by this. I mean, Tails was actually breaking the fourth wall, trying to tell me to get him out of there? So I pressed down on the arrow key as hard as I could and made him run as fast as he could. A pixelated version of that creepy theme when you meet Shadow with the Ark as Robotnik from SA2 was playing as I made Tails trek through the desolate forest, trying to help him escape from whatever he was trying to run from. Suddenly I heard that creepy laugh again, that awful Kefka laugh. Right after 10 seconds had passed, as I had helped Tails run through the forest, and then I started seeing flashes of Sonic popping everywhere on screen, again with those black and red eyes. The music changed to that suspenseful, drowning jingle as I see Sonic behind Tails slowly gaining up on him, flying. Sonic wasn't running, he was actually flying. The flying pose his sprite was making looked very similar to Metal Sonic's flying pose in Sonic CD, except it was just Sonic, and he had the black and red eyes again. Only this time he had the most deranged looking grin on his face. He looked as though he was enjoying the torment he was giving this poor little fox as he gained on him. Suddenly, when Tails tripped, another cutscene, the music stopped and Sonic vanished. Tails laid there and started crying for 15 seconds. The scene was rather upsetting to watch, and I kind of teared up myself. But then Sonic appeared right in front of Tails, and Tails looked up in horror. Blood started to come down those blackened eyes of Sonic, as a grin slowly grew from his face as he looked down at the horrified fox. I could do nothing but watch. Just in a split second, Sonic lunged at Tails right before the screen went black. There was loud screeching noise that only lasted 5 seconds. The text returned, only this time it said, "You're too slow. Want to try again?" And then that god-awful laugh came with it. I was so shocked by what had happened. Did Sonic murder Tails? No, he couldn't have. He and Tails were supposed to be best friends, right? Why did Sonic do that to him? I shook the shock off as it was brought back to the character select. The save file that had Tails was different. Tails was no longer in the box itself, but in the TV screen itself, which was flickering with that red static. Tails' expression scared me. His eyes were black and bleeding. His orange fur had gone black, and he had an expression of anguish on his face. Trying to ignore it, I picked Knuckles next. The laugh came again, and the screen cut to black again, and stayed there for another 10 seconds. This time the level said, "You can't run." I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't tell if this was just a glitch, or a hack, or some kind of sick, twisted joke, or anything really. But despite my fear of what happened next, I kept playing. The next level looked much different. It had the ground of the Scrap Brain Zone, but the sky background looked like the main menu. It had the dark reddish cloudy sky, but it was the music that creeped me out the most. It sounded like Giga's theme, right after you beat Pokey in Earthbound. I also noticed that Knuckles looked afraid, just like Tails did, though not as much. More rather, he looked a little unnerved. He broke the fourth wall just like Tails and looked as if he wasn't sure about what was going on, but I made him move anyway. He ran down the straight pathway in this dark level. As he did, the screen started to flicker, red static, as a couple times, and then that maddening laugh came again. Then, after a few more seconds of running, I noticed several bloodstains on the metallic ground. I felt a growing sense of fear again, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Knuckles. He looked nauseated walking down the bloodstained road, but I still kept him going. Suddenly, as Knuckles ran, Sonic appeared right in front of him with those black and red eyes, and then red static appeared again. When the static vanished, showing nothing but a black screen with text saying, "Found you." No, I was scared. Sonic found Knuckles already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again, and when I was back to the level, Knuckles looked like he was panicking, and Sonic was nowhere to be found. And this time, that high-pitched squealing from Silent Hill 1's final boss is playing. Was this some kind of boss battle with Sonic? I hope to God it wasn't, honestly. Suddenly, Sonic appeared right behind Knuckles in what appeared to be pixelated black smoke. I made Knuckles turn and then punch Sonic, but Sonic vanished in the black pixelated smoke before I could even land a hit. That terrible laugh went off again. Then Sonic appeared behind Knuckles again, and I made him punch again. Sonic vanished again, laughing. Knuckles was panicking even more, and even I felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Knuckles. Another cutscene plays as Knuckles fell to his knees and clutched his head sobbing. I felt his agony. Sonic was actually driving us both crazy. And then, in a split second, Sonic lunged at Knuckles and the screen went black with another distorted screeching noise that lasted for another 3 seconds. Another text message appeared. "So many souls to play with, so little time. Wouldn't you agree?" What the hell? Just what's going on? I started to think Sonic was actually trying to talk to me through this game, but I was too scared to think that. I was brought back to the main menu, and this time, the second file box had Knuckles in on the TV screen. His red fur darkened to a reddish gray, his dreadlocks were dripping with blood, and his eyes were black and bleeding too. He had that look of sadness on his face. I began to think that those are the actual characters trapped in those TV screens on the save files, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So I shut off the game and took a break and took a nap. Wish I hadn't, because then I began to have the most disturbing nightmare. I was in a pitch black darkness, though I was under the light given off by the lamp that hung high above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." Their cries died out as I heard Sonic laugh. His laugh, it sounded a lot like the distorted Kafka laugh. "You're a lot of fun to play with, kid. It's like your friend Kyle. Well, he didn't last long." I was scared and looking around for the source of the voice. "Won't be long now until you join him and all my other friends." I saw him walking toward me, flickering in and out in several directions. "You can't run, kid. You're in my world now, just like the others." When he grabbed me and I saw his bleeding black and red-eyed, grinning face, I woke up with a fright. After a couple hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out why this was happening. So I turned on the computer, turned on the game, and selected Robotnik next. I still thought that it was really wacky playing as Robotnik. But anyway, the level title appeared again, and this time it said ... which I found very freaky. This time I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it was from any of the classic Sonic games, though. It did have the pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were dark grayish purple with animated candlelight and a few dark bloodstains here and there. There was even a dark red curtain hanging above the top part of the screen. Every 12 seconds or so, that curtain swayed very slowly, but whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant, a piano playing in a rather sad but peaceful song, but I knew better. This was a song that played in Silent Hill Act 1, only it wasn't in reverse. Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails and Knuckles did, but he did have a suspicious look on his face, as if he was just being a bit paranoid. He did a little animation when I left him standing. He turns his head to the left and then to the right at least twice, and shrugs at me, as if he has no idea where he was or what was going on. Even though I was scared out of my mind for what was going to happen, I had Robotnik continue onward. He did his usual running animation, you know, when you beat him at the end of the classic Sonic game and you chase him, as we continued to go through the hallway. Then I stop at a long flight of stairs going downward. Now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onward. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls have gotten darker and more reddish. The red torches are now an eerie blue. Then we landed onto another hallway. This one was longer than the last one, or at least it felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs. This one was much longer, took at least a full minute. And then I heard that hard Kefka laugh again, and then the music slowly faded until it was quiet. As it did, the walls turned more dark red and the torches were a black flame now. When Robotnik landed to the third hallway, I noticed he now looked really creeped out. Though he tried to hide it, I couldn't blame him. I was scared too. Suddenly, Sonic popped right in front of Robotnik the same way he did to Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasts for about 15 seconds, and then it showed me the most unpleasant image. The image showed a hyper-realistic image of Sonic standing in the darkness where you can only see his face while his head and torso faded into black. And when I say hyper-realistic, I mean he looks so real you could actually see the lines in his blue fur, as if you could actually feel the fur if you touched the screen. His face? Oh god, he had the most horrifying smile I'd ever seen, and that's saying something considering I saw that image at the start of the game. His eyes were wide and black, and once again, crying blood, which also looked pretty hyper-realistic. And there were also two small glowing red dots in those black eyes staring right at me, as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic. It literally stretched to the sides of his face like a Cheshire cat, except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs. Much like the werehog's teeth, except more vicious looking. Somewhat yellowish, and from the look of it, he had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips and fangs, as if he ate some animal. I stared at that gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off it. I felt he was actually looking at me, smiling at me. That face, it just took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then, the screen flickered with the red static again 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I heard the Kefka laugh. Except this time it sounded distorted, demonic even. It went back to the image again, except this time there was the text. It was messed up, but it was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I had looked at since I had this game. It said, "I am God." It was when I read that message while looking at Sonic, it finally hit me. I realized right then and there, this Sonic was a monster. A pure evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all of his victims, including Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, and possibly Kyle, are just his little toys. And the game is the very gateway into his chaotic, nightmarish world and the very hell his victims are trapped in. Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed as Sonic lunged at the screen, screeching loudly with his mouth wide open to an unnatural length, revealing nothing but a literal spiraling abyss of pure darkness before the red static came again, this time much louder and distorted, so loud it hurt my ears. I yelled and grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. Then it stopped and showed nothing but a black screen. As I sat there staring at the black screen, one last text came up. "Ready for round 2, Tom?" The Kefka laugh, now sounding more clear as if Sonic was right behind me, played again 3 more times, as I looked at that text in shock and confusion. Then I got booted back to the main menu, and this time the third save file had a TV image of Robotnik in the same tormented state as Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik's skin turned a dull gray, his mustache drooped and blackened, his glasses broken and blood coming from them, and he just had a dead expression on his face. I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, and I cried a bit. I pitied them for the agony they're going through. They were forever trapped within the game, forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and always would be. Then the computer shut itself off. I couldn't turn it back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified about what just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures people who play his game in more ways than one, and then when he gets bored, he drags you into the game. Literally drags you to hell, where he can play with you always, as his toy. I can't get the game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there. But at least I managed to turn it back on now. After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me, like a whisper. Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom.
Hello, motherfucker.
I turned around to see where the voice came from, and what I saw made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling with bloodstains under its eyes. Hello, motherfucker, indeed. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yo, I am now happy I never got into the Sonic games. I am now very happy that I didn't jump that. Oh my god, yeah. It was just like, oh, this seems like a pretty, you know, generic emo, and then I'm like, oh wait. Oh wait. Why? My phone stopped charging. Uh-oh. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm trying to see what's going on here. There we go. Let's see if that works. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Well done. Well done, mate. Well done. What is this? Oh. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Oh. Did you guys ever have any Sonic nightmares as a kid? 7, have a great stream, on. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you. Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, we don't need to know, like, the amount of seconds. Like, oh, it happened for 25 exact seconds. Like, dog. No. That's fair. Like I feel like it's definitely a good, like, go through it once, you know, have a good time with it. But yeah, like, after that, once you actually start looking at it under the microscope, you're like, But yeah. Oh. Yeah, right? Like, dude, nobody, unless you play these games a lot, like a lot, I wouldn't remember a fucking song from Silent Hill 1. Like, I wouldn't. And I mean, the Kafka laugh, okay, I get it, but you don't need to keep saying, you know, oh, the Kafka laugh, oh, like, I don't know. But yeah, bro was a nerd. Yeah, they're just like, Oh no. Wait, is he a furry? He's a furry. The person who wrote this is a furry. Damn. At the bottom of this page, it had a credit thing, and it had a credits thing, and one of the credit bars is to foraffinity.net, and I'm like, oh no. Okay. Okay. Oof. It would be correctamundo. Okay, that's not working. Alright. Oof, indeed. Alright. Oh. Ugh. Oh my god. Alright. Stretch. Breathe. Drink something if you guys haven't done that before. Drink some water. Ooh, cha-cha, real smooth. Oh. The scary spaghetti. You missed some of the spooky spaghetti, but we're still going. We're still going. Still going. So we're just about to start Eyeless Jack, a true classic. A true classic. I had been asked about Smile Dog, but that it's got too much filler. Too much filler to really be like, I don't know. I feel like that's like a super long term like ASMR. That'll be an ASMR stream where I just read super long ones, you know? The letters in the bowl said woo. Yep. Cracking. Doing a little cracking. Alright. Eyeless Jack. Hello, my name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal or whatever stupid words people like to use to describe supernatural phenomena, but after that thing visited me, I believe in that paranormal trash. A week after I moved in with my brother, Edwin, after my house was foreclosed, I finished unpacking. Edwin liked the idea of me moving in since we had not seen each other for 10 years, so I was excited too. I soon fell asleep after I moved in. After that first week, I heard rustling noises coming from outside at about 1 in the morning. I thought it was a raccoon, so I ignored it and tried to fall back asleep. The next morning, I told Edwin about it, and he agreed. The next night, however, I thought I heard my window opening and a loud thump, as if something entered my room. I darted up and looked around my room, but I saw nothing. The next morning, Edwin dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He held up a nearby mirror, and I saw myself. I had a large gash in my left cheek. After I was rushed to the hospital, my doctor told me that I must have been sleepwalking, but then he showed me something that made my blood turn cold. He lifted up my shirt to reveal a sewn-up incision where my kidneys were. I stared into his eyes, mine widening. You somehow lost your left kidney last night, my doctor told me. We don't know how, though. Sorry, Mitch. Yo, doctor, fuck you! Fuck you! This doctor literally went, yeah, it looks like you got knocked up in an organ trade and someone stole your kidney. Sucks to be you, bro. Sucks to be you. Here's my bill. Get the fuck out. What the fuck? The next night was my breaking point. Around midnight, I woke up to see a truly horrifying sight. I was staring face to face with a creature with a black hoodie and a dark blue mask with no nose or mouth staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets. The creature also had some black substance dripping from its sockets. I grabbed a camera from the nearby mantle and took a picture. Immediately after taking the shot, the creature lunged at me and tried to claw open my chest to get to my lungs. I stopped it by kicking it in the face. As I ran out of my room, I grabbed my wallet. I would need the money. I ran out of my brother's house and in the night. I eventually ended up in the woods near Edwin's house and tripped on a rock. I fell unconscious and woke up in the hospital. My doctor, the same one who treated me before, entered the room. I have good news and bad news, Mitch, my doctor started. The good news is that you had minor injuries and your parents are going to come pick you up. I sighed with relief. The bad news is that your brother has been killed by something. Sorry. What the fuck? What the fuck? Can we get this doctor, like, fired? What the fuck? Oh yeah, your kidney's missing. Tragic. Oh yeah, your brother's dead. Tragic. What the fuck? Hi, Nilly. Thank you, dear. This is some grade A bullshit. My parents took me back to Edwin's house to collect my remaining belongings, which I did. Upon entering my room, I was scared but remained calm. I grabbed my camera and then stopped dead in my tracks. In the hallway leading to my room, I saw Edwin's body and something small lying next to it. I retrieved it and entered my parents' car, not mentioning Edwin's corpse. I looked at the thing I had picked up and nearly vomited. I was holding my stolen half-eaten kidney with some black substance on it. What in the fresh hell? I have so many questions, you guys. So many questions. Like, number one, yeah. Sounds like a skill issue, bruh. Get good at life. You lost your kidney? Stay awake at all times. Fucking lock your window. Get your shit together. Fuck that doctor. Also, okay. Look. It's known when you fall asleep first at the sleepover. Yes. Look. If they know that the brother's dead, right? If they know the brother's dead, wouldn't the body have been taken in by the like literally wouldn't that house be covered in police tape? Wouldn't the body already be gone? And they found your kidney. It's half eaten. You might want to have a police investigation about that? I don't know. Not a sermon, just a fucking thought. But yo. Like, yeah, no, if a doctor said that to me, I don't know what I would do. I would probably be shocked for 2 seconds before raising hellfire. Like, what the fuck? What the fresh hell? Not okay. Not okay, dog. Not okay. Oh my god. Okay. I just realized that the orange story is like 8 parts. So we're gonna not do that one and we're gonna pull up the 2 that Anutaku sent me. Because we don't Ooh. Ooh. Good goddamn. Okay. An egg. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Catch these hands. Yo, the suing that I would do. If not, like, Yeah, fuck that guy. To quote 8-parter, 72 hours. No! No! I failed! I failed my 20. I've tried twice to do a 24-hour stream, and I tapped out at like 17 hours, like 17 something hours on the first one. And then I tried another time. I tried to have a New Year's one, but unfortunately, like around 1 a.m., I had a panic attack, so I had to stop stream. I came back in a few hours after some rest and calming down, stream for another 8 hours, but I think the universe is telling me that I cannot do a 24-hour stream. I can stream for like 8 hours multiple days in a row. That's fine. But yeah, no. Yeah, it was a long it was a long one. But I know for a fact that I can do 12s. I can do 12-hour days without having too much of an issue. But 24, it's a skill issue. It's a fucking skill issue. I just can't do it. And you know what? It's good to understand your capabilities. And to know what you can't do. Oh, okay. Stretch out. Oh, the flesh. Also, I kind of want to see how big a kidney is. Like, I don't even know. Yes, unshrimp everyone. Everyone unshrimp. I had to shrimp quite a lot at work today. You would be surprised how much shrimping is involved when you have to, drag bodies to the fucking burn pit. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But no, we'll make it through. We'll make it through together, guys. We'll make it through together. All right. We are beginning with an egg. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered, you were better off, trust me. And that is when you met me. What? What happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said, matter-of-factly. No point mincing words. There was a truck, and it was skidding. Yep. I died? Yep. But don't feel bad about it. Everybody dies. You looked around. There was nothingness. Just you and me. What is this place? Is this the afterlife? More or less. Are you God? Yep. I'm God. My kids. My wife. What about him? Will I be alright? That's what I'd like to see. You just died and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some person, some vague authority figure. More of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, they'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, She'll feel very guilty about feeling relieved. Oh. So, what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither. You'll be reincarnated. Oh. So the Hindus were right? All the religions are right in their own way. Walk with me. He followed along as we strolled in the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So, what's the point then? When I get reborn, it'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby. So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so. You have within you all the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. Stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been a human for the past 34 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here longer, you'd start remembering everything. But there's no point doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots. Lots and lots. And into lots of different lives. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess technically. Time, as you know it, only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where do you come from? Oh, sure! I come from somewhere. Somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you won't understand. Oh, he said, a little let down. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, could I have interacted with myself at some point? Sure, happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own time span, you don't even know what's happening. So, what's the point of it all? Seriously? Seriously, you're asking me for the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question. I look you directly in your eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life you grow, mature, and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? What about everyone else? There is no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me. You stared blankly at me. But all the people on Earth, all you, different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Nah, you're getting it. Giving you a little congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human who ever lived? Or who will ever live, yeah. I'm Abraham Lincoln? And you're John Wilkes Booth, too. I'm Hitler? And you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus? And you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimize someone, you are victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human who was or will be is experienced by you. Why? Why do all this? Because someday, you will become like me. Because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child. What? You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you lived every human life throughout all time, you'll grown enough to be born. So the whole universe is just an egg of sorts. Now, it's time for you to move on to your next life. And with that, I sent you on your way. King, you can get your own universe later. You gotta wait in line. You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet, hon. You're not ready. I'm sorry. Anutaku, I really liked that. That was cute. That was really cute. Definitely more existential horror. Just what is life? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. I feel like if you sat and really thought about the ramifications of all of that, you're just like, damn. Damn. Oh, and of course the first thing that pops into my mind is, wait, you're literally just masturbating. You're never having sex. You were just masturbating at all times. If you are everyone. That's just what it is. Like, you're literally just going, God, Rachel's being a bitch today. And you're like, wait, no. I was being a bitch that day. And then you just go round and round and round and round and round and round and round. You're like, hell yeah. I'm awesome. This person's awesome. This person was me. And it's like, oh my god. Nothing like a good old orgy for one. Let's fucking... I'm dead. That's hilarious. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my god. Oh. Alrighty. Okay. Oh my god. I'm gonna be like thinking of like that's gonna come back into my brain at like 4 a.m. I'll wake up and just go, nothing like a good old orgy for one. I'm dead. Dying. Slain. Oh, alright, y'all. Stretch. Make those spines where they need to be. Get yourself in a good lumbar supported area. Yep, that's right, Zero. There is no train. There is no train. Fucking hell. Okay. And let me take a quick check. Okay. Alright. This next one. The greatest gift is the self you met along the way. Yes, you are correct. Alright guys, this will probably be the last one of the night. This one was also sent by Onutaku. This is from the No Sleep Reddit. Let me make sure that's still good. Okay, we're good. Alright. This one is called There's Something Moving in the Storm Clouds. That's right, you get bitches. There is no such thing as no bitches. But there still is a thing as maidenless behavior. I want y'all to think about that, okay? I'm watching you. Alright, there's something moving in the storm clouds. The hot air blew up north from the Gulf, and the cold wind swept in south from Canada. And when the two fronts collided over the states, their battle spilled over into a monstrous rolling storm cloud, not a few miles north from my lot in the woods. For the better part of an hour, as things were unfolding, the buzz of the weather alerts was all I could hear on the TV and radio. They're saying this one could be a big one, folks. Stay indoors and be prepared to run to the cellar. If this supercell does indeed produce a funnel cloud, we'll keep you updated as more information comes available. And all at once, I could see the black underside of the beast as it moved. And then the trees started to list and sway. And then the wind rolled up through the grass until it blew dust onto my trousers and into my hair. I whistled. Come on, Shiloh. Inside boy, let's go. The dog bounded up the stairs, and I shut the door behind the two of us. And then it began to rain. Nothing but a drizzle at first, but then a pounding, howling downpour that fell in sheets and torrents. It turned the dirt to mud, and it poured from the gutters. And it swept against the windows like ocean surf. Shiloh, never one for thunderstorms if he could help it, lay down on the rug and covered his snout with a paw and began to whine. Hang in there, boy. It'll be over soon. I sat down in the recliner and turned on the TV, petting him absent-mindedly with my free hand. Of the storm. Well, do you think it'll produce a twister? It's hard to say right now, Debbie. The conditions we think are there, especially here near Fairfield, and over here in the Manchester area. You can see on the radar how that's playing out, so there's certainly cause for concern that we're keeping a close watch on. Thanks, Kevin. And I'm getting word now that there's indeed a tornado watch now in Fort Hutchins and in Charles counties, and of course you can get a more comprehensive list of affected areas on our website, and it's at the bottom of the screen. To anyone in the path of this storm, especially in those areas, it is imperative that you either prepare to move to a storm shelter in short notice or find a low place to hide, without windows if all possible. Place mattresses up against any exposed windows if you can, and do not attempt to drive away from the storm until the watch is expired. I looked out the window. It was hard to see much of anything through the wind and the rain, but it was dark out there for sure. I stood up and walked over to the window to get a better view. It was so worked over in fog and rainwater, I could hardly see anything. Stay put, Shiloh. I'm just going to take a quick peek out the door. I cracked it open a bit, and the sound of the storm utterly exploded into the house. I could barely hear the dog bark over the sound of the wind and the rain and the claps of thunder. Then a spear of lightning bolted across the sky. Whew, that's a big one, boy, I shouted. Might have to rev up that generator in a bit. I eased the door open a bit more and leaned out. Within seconds, I was nearly as soaked as the porch, and I just squint and shield my eyes and wipe the hair off my forehead when the rain plastered it there with weight. In the distance and through the trees, I could see the sunset, but the red and orange and yellow that were there had hit a hard, fast wall of blackened storm clouds a few miles off, and that cloud only got darker and more violent the closer it got to where I stood. The grass in my fields was nearly flattened with wind too, and the trees were heavily sideways and billowing their tops to the windfall as the storm threw it back to their beating. I craned my neck upward. The clouds were moving fast above the house. I could tell that even through the rain, they swirled and bulged and chased their tails, and wisps of them scouted the ground and dipped deep and low. I felt Shiloh brush up against my leg. Back inside, boy. I gently nudged him with the heel of my boot. Things are getting worse out here. Shut the door and muffled the sound by doing so, and Shiloh went back to his spot on the rug and picked up his whining where he left off. I knelt down, scratched behind his ear. Almost over. Storms can't be this bad, can't last too long. But the storm didn't let up. It carried on through the afternoon and into the evening, only strengthened as it did. I kept turning onto the TV as I made a casserole. Down near Fairview, and luckily the worst of the storm is holding to the northwest of Wilbur Heights, which of course is minimizing the damage there. Yeah, that's right, Deb. But the roads there are just kind of clogged to death and back with people getting out of the storm's way. And that kind of congestion could prove to be very dangerous if things do indeed decide to move in that direction. Well, we certainly hope everyone there gets themselves to safety before that happens. Shiloh had his nose pressed up against the window as the talking heads conversed. He was almost perfectly still. His tail was tucked, his paws were set wide, and he had one of his ears standing on end. "Anything interesting out there, boy?" He paid me no heed, so I got up and joined him at the window. The storm had reached a hurricane level of fury. The rain was flying in sideways now. The bursts of lightning illuminated a number of downed trees at the end of the yard. The rest of them continued to bend their spines to the wind. It's a wonder the power's still on, ain't it? I scratched the back of his head. He continued ignoring me, but when I got up to check dinner, he barked. "Shh, hey, no need for that, Shiloh, come on now," he barked again. "Shiloh!" He barked a third time, and a fourth. And then his ears flattened up against his head, and he backed up a little from the window and growled under his breath. "You see something, boy?" He barked again. I went back over to the window and did my damnedest to peer out of it, but all I could see and hear was the darkness and wind. "Come on, no more barking inside, boy." "So where's all this coming from, Kevin? It's been churning non-stop for 12 hours now. Emergency crews can't even get out there to do their jobs properly." It's definitely lasting longer than anyone predicted, I'll give you that. But it's not unheard of for particularly powerful front collisions and to result in longer-lasting supercell systems like this. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. And has the center of the storm moved at all? Bizarrely, it hasn't, Deb. It remains relatively stationary outside Wilbur Heights and Bell South, and it's actually gaining strength in certain areas too. And of course, now we're getting some reports of widespread power outages and property damage in the Riverside area. Here's a video of the 7-Eleven at the intersection of Turner and Route 40. This was turned into us by an anonymous source. You can clearly see some severe structural damage to those gas pumps, and a lot of debris floating around the parking lot. It's not the best angle. If you look right here, you can see part of the gas station's roof is kind of hanging off there. Fortunately, we have yet to hear of any injuries or fatalities, but there's only so much of a lot of the older buildings out there can take. Unfortunately, that's right, Deb. A lot of the houses in the Riverside and Port Harbor areas were built decades ago. In some of the lower-end neighborhoods out there, the architecture is particularly vulnerable to high-speed, prolonged winds like what we're seeing here tonight. Any advice for people who might be trapped in those areas for the duration? Well, you covered the bases pretty well earlier, I think, but it's worth repeating. Board up your windows or put up mattresses in case the glass shatters, and at all times have a place to run to if things get particularly bad. Make sure it has no windows, make sure it's low to the ground. Bathrooms and basements are good choices to run to in a pinch. As a last resort, find a ditch or some other low ground to lie down in. And I believe that tornado watch has been extended, is that right, Kevin? It has, yes. And that's why knowing these safety tips is essential right about now. The watch has been extended to midnight in the Manchester and Fairfield County areas, and it's even been widened in scope to include Quartzsite Hills. Shiloh remained vigilant by the window, and I was staying up in the recliner, watching the news with the coffee, dozing off here and there. The storm continued to rage outside. Every once in a while I'd open the door to take a peek, but I stopped that once the wind became so violent I struggled to shut the door against it. There was also the kaboom! Shiloh yelled, and my heartbeat slammed. Fuck! The dog leapt back into his defensive stance by the window, ears flattened to his head, hair up on end, teeth bared up to the guns. He barked again and then growled. Loudest clap of thunder I think I've ever heard. What about you, boy? I scratched him behind the ears, but he was focused on something outside. I followed his gaze to the top of the trees, and just as I did, there was a spectacular flash of red lightning that spilled its glow across the forest. Shiloh let out a little squeal of confusion. My mouth hung open a bit. The hell? The lightning flashed again, the deep, almost purplish red thrown out by giant spears of electric power that shot to and fro, and through a small gap in the mist, I saw nearly to the top of the big storm cloud when it did. It was a colossal monstrosity, obscured by the darkness of its own underside, a billowing, rolling titan of a storm cloud lit from within by lightning that must have stretched for miles in every direction. God only knew how high up in the atmosphere it went. God almighty, I ain't never seen anything like that in my life. I rubbed Shiloh's back. Starting to think this isn't any normal storm, old buddy. The flashes of red lightning kept up through the night, and every once in a while they'd be joined by lancing snaps of blue and purple. It was a spectacular and breathtaking display, wondrous and otherworldly to behold, but I'd be dishonest if I didn't admit that it was the most terrifying experience in my life. Meanwhile, the rain kept falling in sheets, and the wind had remained at a steady, low hurricane speeds for some hours now. The front yard was littered with debris and branches and hailstones the size of a fist. The power flickered in and out. I wasn't sure how it stayed on as long as it had, but it wouldn't hold much longer. Couldn't. I had the TV on while Shiloh and I watched the storm from the window. I'd glance from it from time to time. The picture flickered and static filled the screen in between shots of the news decks. Reports of red are confounding. Over in Riverview, where, Deb, this is unlike I've ever seen. This is not an ordinary storm. That cloud above. Ionnimbus? Cumulo? Hyper? Is this the new classification? Well, it's yes and I. Who? The feed turned to static, and then, with an audible snap, the power went out for a final time. I whistled and sighed. Just us in here now, boy. I hugged him tight and felt how violently he was shaking. I think I was shaking too. So for both our sakes, I kissed his head and said, "Glad you're here with me, buddy. It's gotta count for something." And we turned back to the window to watch the storm. Shiloh? Where are you, boy? I listened for him, a whine or a bark, but heard nothing. My heartbeat quickened in pace until it was slamming. Shiloh! I started digging through the rubble of my home, tossing bricks and shards of glass and trunks of drywall to the side. They started forming a pile behind me. Come on, boy, don't you do this to me, don't you do this! I dug and dug and dug until my nails had fallen off, until the skin on my fingertips peeled back to the bone. And then I dug some more. He was nowhere to be found. My dog, my best friend in the whole world, crushed under the weight of his own home. I couldn't begin to imagine. Shiloh, please, come here, boy. Come on, I need you. Shiloh, I heard a bark behind me, but it wasn't Shiloh's. It was deep and loud, and it echoed and rattled my eardrums. Then I heard it again, louder. I turned around and peered right into the darkness behind me. It was thick, and it was black and nigh impenetrable, but it was far from empty. I could feel the wind getting stronger until my hair was flying and my skin began peeling away. I couldn't breathe. Then there was a flash that red lightning, and for a split second before it hit, I saw a tornado of incomprehensible vastness bearing down on me to destroy what it hadn't destroyed the first time. Shiloh! I bolted upright, gasping, and grabbed at my chest. Still at home, covered in sweat but alive and awake in the darkness. I could still hear the howl of the storm outside. I breathed a sigh of relief, and then Shiloh plodded up and started licking my face. Oh my god, excuse me. Oh. Oh. Hey there, boy. Sorry about that, buddy. I scratched behind his ears. Just a bad dream. Thank you. I looked at my phone. 5 in the morning. I'd managed to get nearly a full night's sleep in spite of everything. You hungry, boy? I got up and used a flashlight to find the dog food bag, and then Shiloh inhaled his breakfast while I looked out the back window. Can't believe it's lasting this long. It was truly incredible. The rain had abated a bit. I could see, not a lot, but a bit. But the wind still howled, and the sky remained nearly pitch black dark. Not a drop or note of sunlight made it through the canopy of cloud cover, but frequent pulses of that red lightning afforded me some visibility to appreciate the wreckage of my yard. It looked like the Somme. Trees were leafless and down, branches carpeted by grass, and I could even see split-roof shingles lying soaked in puddles at the foot of the yard. I bet the insurance company's about to have a hell of a day. Hey boy, I'm gonna run outside and see if I can't put on that generator. You stay put, okay? He wagged his tail, but when he saw I was moving to the door, he stood up and barked. I'll be back in a minute, boy, okay? I threw on my coat. Generator's just outside. Calm down. He barked again and again, but I just rolled my eyes and stepped outside. As expected, it took less than a second to get completely and utterly soaked in the downpour. I could feel the moisture through my coat, sogging into my t-shirt, and even my boots struggled to keep my feet dry. But I slogged through the mess in the mud and the debris all the same and slowly advanced to the generator. I threw back the tarp and clack! I turned around. Shiloh had thrown himself against the inside of the window and descended into madness. He was barking and chewing at the glass and frantically, desperately trying to grab my attention. I'd never seen him in such a fit, but from what I can tell, he wasn't seeking help for himself. He was trying to save me. As soon as I realized this, I heard something in the distance that constituted the single loudest and most bizarre sound I'd ever heard. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't an explosion. In fact, it wasn't especially dissimilar from a whale call or horn of a ship docking at harbor. It was a deafening, animalistic sonic blast that lasted for several seconds and carried hard and steady over the thunder. I felt my blood wash to a stop, and then I turned. I couldn't see much, but I saw enough. There was something in the cloud, a formless mass moving east and still well behind the mist. And then I heard the sound again, and then the flash of red lightning shed its glow on what I could now confirm was a still clouded over form of something moving there, something alive that was titanic and otherworldly to a degree I cannot adequately put into words. I forgot all about the generator. I dropped the cord. I forgot all about Shiloh too, who was still barking himself into a fit from inside the house. And for the briefest of seconds, I even forgot about the storm. Although I was still being pelted with rain, I was simply basking there in unspeakable existential awe. Not a normal storm indeed. Not by a long shot. I stood and watched the beast, whatever it was, move slowly but with grace behind the storm. Then I heard a low rumbling thud that may have been its footstep. The ground shook when it hit, and then the giant shadow of the figure faded into the upper clouds, and the storm resumed as before, with a spectacular clap of thunder that shocked me back into reality. I looked over at Shiloh. He'd calmed down a bit, and was now looking at me through the glass as to say, "What the hell are we still doing here?" He was right. We couldn't stay here. Of course we couldn't stay there. I didn't know what the storm was, or even who it was a storm to begin with, in the strictest sense of the word, but I had no indication it was letting up anytime soon, and I don't know what that thing was. "All right, boy," I said it under my breath, more to myself than him. "All right, let's get the hell out of here." It took me mere minutes to throw a bag together, clothes, electronics, toiletries, and other necessities within the grasp of convenience, and to get that and Shiloh situated in the truck. I'd thrown it all in haphazardly, and in my haste I was positive I forgot something, but I didn't care. I just wanted to leave, to get as far away from this place as I could before things got worse. I didn't know what was waiting for us out there either. I didn't know how far the destruction went, or how wide-reaching the storm was, or if even this was all indeed some sort of apocalyptic level event. But if that was the case, and if we got caught in the middle of it, then at least we'd know for sure before we died. It wasn't exactly a comforting thought, but I had to admit, the possibility of escape was certainly the most comforting thing we could think of. I locked up the house, not like it particularly mattered, and then, after throwing up the hood of my jacket and zipping it to my chin, I grabbed the handle of the garage door and threw it up, letting the wind and rain and hail blast its way inside and soak everything. So violent was the storm that it looked like we were staring out into a blizzard. The wind-whipped rain was flying in just every direction, not just down. In the fray, too, were rocks of hail and leaves and sometimes whole branches. "All right, boy," I shouted as I climbed in the truck. Are you ready? He looked at me, and he didn't whine or bark or make any sound or movement whatsoever. My thoughts exactly, bud. I rubbed his head and turned the key. The truck, which luckily had nearly a full tank in its gut, revved to life, and I eased my foot into the gas and off we went. High beams on, windshield wipers on full blast. The driveway was rough with debris, so the truck bounced and jostled as we made our way toward the wooded path that led us onto the main road. God, let that road be clear. I knew the odds were against us, but I didn't have it in me to think about that right now. I just kept going. 5, 10, 15 miles per hour. Through the surf, and the storm, and the hail. Thank you for posture. Ugh. The trees offered some manner of shelter at least, and spectacularly, the road was clear enough to drive through. None of the felled trunks had barricaded the path forward, but I didn't want to wait around for that to happen. It looked like it could any second, so I hit the gas harder and we fell into gear and shook and rolled our way down to Hill Farms Boulevard. Can't believe we got here this far, huh, boy? Shiloh was whimpering in the seat next to me. Hang in there, champ. We'll be out of this mess before you know it. I said the words, but I'm not sure I believed them. We drove north for hours. Occasionally we'd see a tree in the road, or a pile of debris, or an abandoned car with its blinker still flashing through the fog, and we'd navigate accordingly. But by and large, the roads were clear, and I wanted to exploit that fact to the end before the whole damn town and all of nature's wrath came down on top of us. I tried to radio on multiple occasions too, but there was nothing to be heard there but static. I gave up on the third attempt. A burst of red lightning streaked across the whole sky at once. Shiloh didn't respond, but when the thunderclap hit, he jumped almost entirely off the seat. I tensed up my grip and on the wheel until my knuckles went white. Things seemed to be getting worse. I didn't want to admit it to myself, even in my head. Are we going the wrong way? The wipers were overwhelmed with the onslaught of precipitation. So intense was the downpour, in fact, I was getting dripped on despite the car being sealed up tight. To boot, there was almost complete lack of visibility. I could see maybe 50 yards ahead when the rain parted in the wind, but not an inch more. At its worst, I could see nothing but mist and cloud. I reduced my cruising speed to 10 miles an hour to accommodate this. The gas tank sat at a quarter. It carried this way for over an hour before Shiloh sat up straight and started whimpering and pawing out the window. I looked out the glass on my side. We were downtown, I saw. It's a small, isolated place, so downtown is about 3 intersections wide in any direction, but in the shroud of the fog and rain, it looked expansive and mysterious. Light poles, sans light of course, loomed out of the clouds and hung gloomily over the road. I could see storm fronts too. Windows and doors were boarded up on most, but in a few, Carl's Pharmacy and the subway among them, doors were thrown in and the interiors gutted. Debris and rubble littered the sidewalk, and had been the case in my yard, the road became rough and uneven as a result. Looks like hell out there, doesn't it, boy? Shiloh kept pawing at the glass, but then he stopped all of a sudden. He perked up his ear, and I listened too. What in the hell? For the first time in nearly 26 hours, we began to hear silence. The rain slowed from a torrential downpour to a steady rhythm, then to a drizzle, and then it stopped altogether. And the wind, which had been brought up in incessant howling since yesterday morning, abated too. All the way down to a hint of a whisper. Even the clouds began to part and spread and thin out, and before long, the road ahead became clear enough to see without straining and guesswork, although fog still covered nearly everything to a certain degree. I laughed aloud and aggressively rubbed the back of Shiloh's head between the ears. Shipboard, we made it! Safe at Boom! My heartbeat slammed into a rhythm, and Shiloh yelped and whined and yelped more. The sound, that horn blast from earlier, had exploded through the air and vibrated the windows. It was orders of magnitude louder than it was when I first heard it, and that meant it was close. Too close. Boom! Fuck. I now slammed on the brakes and was using both hands to cover up my ears. It was a fruitless endeavor. I can hear my eardrums rattle in my head even after the blast ceased. Shiloh was going berserk next to me. Come on, calm down, boy. I could barely hear my own voice after the ringing in my ears. You're not helping anything by boom. I felt that more than I heard it, and I heard it just fine. I slowly craned my hands over the left. Boom! The whole car shook and rattled. I could see pebbles on the ground leaping up in unison at the impact. Boom! And there it was. A leg. A leg that more closely resembled a California redwood in complexion and size, though it dwarfed even that. Boom! The beast was walking across the road and making a spectacle of it. I could only see the mammoth lower half of his legs as it moved. The rest was still shredded by mist and fog and cloud, but even that was an awesome and terrible sight to behold. Boom! It took a full minute for the Titan to cross the road and carry on its way to the east. Slowly, I eased my foot to the pedal and we began to roll forward again, but I never slowed up the rate of my heartbeat. Boom! The horn blast sound drifted away on the wind, and soon the center of town was behind us and fading deep away into the mist in the rearview mirror. The road remained rough for another mile or so, but the storm continued to clear up, and visibility improved at a slow but steady rate until the view obstruction was negligible. Hang in there, Shiloh. The poor dog was so exhausted he almost lacked energy to care. We're almost out here, boy. We're almost free. But then the last of the clouds parted ways, and we saw it. A scene of awesome and spectacular devastation. The whole of Forston County, what had been a sparsely populated region of wooded wilderness stretching from Wilbur Heights on its southern neck to Phillips Creek to the northeast, had nearly ceased to exist. In its place now sat a desolate gray pit of impossible scope, miles across and miles deep, reaching down into the earth like an excavation site or an industrial mine dug up to unearth something of utterly mammoth size. There were no living trees or grass or running water or any signs of wildlife there, just endless gray rock and stone, spiraling down deep and then back up and then stretching off into the distance until it ran up against another wall of fog and storm clouds 10 or 12 miles down. God almighty, boy, I said, and I leaned down to view the scene from his side of the glass as we scrolled by. Doing so brought the sky into view. Will you look at that? Above the pit, spilling its ruby scarlet light over the landscape below, sat the swirling red center of the storm. The relative calmness of the air beneath it hinted its purpose was not particularly unlike a hurricane's eye, and yet it was so thoroughly covered up with clouds it blotted out the sky entirely. Red lightning cracked and snapped in increasing frequency and intensity the closer up the center things got, and at that center sat a swirling blood-red vortex from which everything appeared to emanate and spread. Beneath it were multitudes of titans too, flying up out of the pit and into the vortex and disappearing forever. Shiloh whimpered and whined. I don't know, boy. Maybe they've been down there all along, and that thing's their way back home. The scene was finally obscured again by wisps of light fog, and before we knew it, we were back again in the thick of the storm of the portal's presence had kicked up. Our atmosphere's white blood cell reaction to something mammoth and alien in its midst. We drove again for hours through wind and hail and sheets of rain and past other titans moving home. Boom! But we made it through in good order. The storm finally stopped somewhere north of the Tawny River in the town up there of the same name, where we filled up our tank and got a room for the night. The storm raged for 3 more days there, non-stop and at full fury for the duration, and then, in the blink of an eye, it was over. The June storm that devastated a previously unknown town in the center of the state is finally beginning to clear, according to authorities from the weather services, and emergency crews are finally free to move about in their already lightly populated region, in force to look for survivors and restore power, but their job won't be easy. Yeah, ain't ever seen nothing like this. Look here, you see that? It looks like a giant footprint. Yeah, we're thinking the storm ripped up trees and threw them every which way and then blew dirt back into the holes, leaving nothing but a dip like that behind. We've seen tons of these, usually in lines for miles. Maybe a tornado did it. Running theory, anyway. It all seems like this. Indeed evil. Indeed. Bizarre scenes like this are indeed everywhere in the affected areas. No doubt a humbling and mysterious testament to the sheer fury Mother Nature can deliver. Coming up after the break, Will. I switched the radio off. Bunch of idiots, huh, boy? Shiloh didn't respond. He was asleep. Still, but I confirmed it under my breath. Bunch of idiots. We pulled up to the driveway about an hour later, and then we started the long, brutal process of recovering and rebuilding, which, as of this writing, it's still not complete. I still need to get the roof replaced. But none of that matters. In the end, I've got a bed to sleep in. I've got Shiloh with me, too. I think the two of us will be just fine. The worst part, after all, isn't the devastation. It's what amounts to a cover-up. Now that I'm sure of what this storm was, and I couldn't tell you if it was the first of its kind or just the latest in a long chain of poorly reported incidents of similar quality and magnitude, but I do know enough to dismiss the official explanation that the Wilberforced hypercell, as it's now known, was just a freak weather phenomenon that can be easily enough dismissed as a strange little footnote of interest to few outside the relevant fields of study. Luckily for the powers that be, too, the affected area is among the least known, most sparsely populated regions in the United States, and what other witnesses there might have been have most likely been displaced or killed. But between me and Shiloh, at least there are two sets of eyes here who've seen the reality of things. So I'm getting the word out. Damn! I like that one. Sheesh. Yeah. The biggest legs. The leggiest boys. Like, damn. Yes, thank you for sending those on Otaku. Those are really good. I like that one. Just a man and his dog doing their best. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, that was a really good story. I've read other ones that are kind of like, you know, oh, we saw something, this is so weird, this is, you know, this or that, and I'm like, okay, but this one had some solid, realism's the wrong word. I don't know. It just felt, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, guys. I don't. It was just, I liked it a lot. Oh, man. But it would seem that it is time for us to say goodbye for the evening. Let me see here. See who I can find. Oh. I was gonna raid Kyo, but unfortunately. Yes, thank you, Misa. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for so long. Yep. That time already. Oh. You know what? I know who we're gonna raid, guys. I know who we're gonna raid. Our boy 7. Yeah, I definitely think we're gonna do this again. I really did enjoy doing the creepypastas. And we'll probably do some more like that. Maybe we'll set up a thing where people can submit ones they want to hear, and we could try that. That's right. I'll read you all bedtime stories. We'll have a late stream one day, and all the bedtime stories. But thank you guys so much for hanging, and let's go give our boy some love. Let's go give our boy some love. Have a great night, guys.